I moved to a Himalayan village for a month and ended up spending a few months there. I met a lot of people during my journeys who said, "Oh, you are the first Indian digital nomad that we met." And I was like, "It's not possible. We are a country of over a billion people." And
I see that in your journey, what you've done is you've found, problems during your own journey. And then you've taken that responsibility up, taken that risk up to solve that problem. And as you go through life, I'm sure that you'll find the next thing to solve for, and then you'll implement it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I have Mayur today with me, who is the founder of Nomad GAO. Hi, Mayur. How are you?
hi, Rishabh. Thanks for inviting me on the show. I'm doing great. Back to Goa after quite a long.
Oh, back to
So,
Goa?
and yeah,
Nice.
it's
Great.
nice.
So we were just discussing that we both have nice shirts today. A very, very digital nomad style look.
Yeah. So I picked this up in I think Chiang Mai in Thailand
Okay.
on my digital nomad journey. Yours look like it's from Indonesia, the batik
Right.
design.
Yeah, you guessed it correctly. So one from Thailand, one from Indonesia. Perfect place to start the podcast. And
And not to forget, you're sitting in Vietnam, I'm sitting in India, a lot of international stuff.
correct. And you yourself have your family, based in Vietnam and traveling to India back and forth. So nomad family, something that I also aspire to be with my family. So there's a lot to learn from you here, Mayur. Let's get started. The first question I had is about freedom, because like that's one thing that people keep saying. It's a big word, and it's the ultimate goal of man, to get freedom. And I also say, like, one aspect of it is freedom of location, which is where digital nomadism comes into the picture. So, how do you define freedom, and what do you think about the role that freedom of location plays in one's life?
Yeah, so interestingly, freedom is a word, right? Uh, like there is no one single definition of freedom. There is financial freedom, there is location freedom, there is freedom of thought, there is freedom of speech, uh, and it's an act of balance, to be honest, right? What makes your life free on one end may be the pulling string on the other end. So uh, personally for me, freedom is about being with being wherever I want and being with the people I want to be with. Yeah. So let me put it this way. And then everything else in life, let it be finances and, uh, you know, travel and all of that, is supporting, I try to make it uh, as supporting strings to let me be wherever I want to be and let me be with the people I want to be with. And yeah, it might be a little philosophical answer to this
I
question,
love
but
it.
freedom
I love
is,
the
yeah,
Yeah, I love the phrase when you said freedom of thought, because it's much harder to achieve than all of the, even in my opinion, financial freedom to some extent, because you have some amount of money, but then you have all of these thoughts in your brain about how to make more and what to do with it and how to protect it and how to invest it. So you are cluttering on one end, like you said, while being free on the other. That's a very nice way of putting it. I wasn't expecting that sort of an answer, to be honest. I was expecting something like you can just live wherever you want, travel the world, have fun. But yeah, this is much deeper than that. So, what has your journey been in looking for this freedom, and what have you learned from it?
yeah. So to be honest, I was not looking for freedom, right? I just had the flexibility. So let me get to my childhood. Uh,
Hmm.
I grew up in a small town. It's gonna be a longish answer, but I think it's essential to uh, know the backstory. I grew up in a small town. You know, my parents had limited expectation. Basically, study well, get a job, or study well, join the family business, small business. Um and this was, I grew up in, like, I was born in 1985. That means, internet was uh, still not there when I was growing up in my formative years. So finding information, getting more exposure, I just got it through, you know, magazines, books. So I used to buy these second-hand magazines, travel magazines, just to buy them at 4 rupees each and go through the pages, imagine myself being at in those beautiful places. And I think the digital nomad in me or traveler in me was formed much before I actually started traveling, because these
Hmm.
magazines showed me the world, and that was my only bridge to the outer world. Uh, and then I think I did give it a try to be free, to be location independent, but uh, that was just the initial years of internet, and I tried to do a couple of internet businesses. Uh, did not work out. So I chose the normal, you know, normal for the whole world path, which is take a corporate job and have a career. But I never really believed in, taking up a loan to buy a house, or binding yourself with debt, or binding yourself with one particular location. And back in 2014, when I got my first remote job, I said, "This is it. This is what I really truly believe in, where I don't need to be at one place just because my career dictates me to be in, or because because whatever else dictates me to be in that place." Um, I was still not a digital nomad, right? When I got a remote job, I still felt like, okay, I want to travel. There is this the travel magazine pictures that are still there in my head, uh, but I did not think that it's possible to make it a lifestyle. I felt that, okay, now I have little more flexibility than I earlier had, which is waiting for the long weekends, or taking bunch of vacation to travel. And now I can travel maybe a month in a year, or 2 months in a year. But I think all of that started changing in 2015, early 2015, when I went to South India just to be with a friend. Just because everyone else had office job, they were stuck in the locations. They did not have location independence, and I had.
Hmm.
Uh, so I said, why not go and meet friends and be with them for a while? So I went to Trichy in Tamil Nadu, um, with an intention that I'll spend a month there and go back to my hometown and work from home. Uh, but during that trip, we used to take this weekend, you know, getaways. And in one of the gateways, I felt like, okay, I want to really spend more time in this place. That was Varkala in Kerala.
Hmm.
And instead of spending a weekend, I ended up spending 2 weeks there. And I felt like, okay, this is possible. I could work, I could get things done. I was not fired from my remote job. Uh, and I was more productive. I was getting things done uh, much quicker, just because I had this, thing in my mind that if I get things done earlier, I have the whole day to explore and be with people, strike interesting conversations, uh, and all of that. So I think that was the turning point that gave me some confidence, and that's how I got started.
Nice.
I can keep talking about this, but I think it will come uh,
Oh,
in the
absolutely.
next
That's
questions.
why we want you here. But yeah, just a few things that I mean, you unwrapped a lot of things for people there. But a few things that I wanted to highlight from that is one thing that you said is that you had a remote job, but you were not yet a nomad before you started traveling. So a remote job only gives you the option, but then you'll have to take that option and then take action if you really want to explore the world, or live the way that you want to live. So what I tell people is, like, being a digital nomad is an application of having freedom of location. It's not the other way around. So once you have freedom of location, you can use it in so many ways. You don't have to be a digital nomad if you don't want to be. You can also use it to sit on your couch throughout the day. But you could use it in many ways. And one of the ways that you can use it is by exploring the world, becoming a digital nomad, working remotely. So the other thing that you also mentioned, which I really like, is that you travel locally, you explore near home. One of the things that people, aspirations that people have, is as soon as they get a remote job, they want to go to Bali or Thailand or something like that. But there are like so many beautiful places near home. Tamil Nadu has beautiful places. Varkala, like you mentioned, I've been there twice. Beautiful beaches, cliff beaches. So so talk a little bit more about this um transition that happened when you were there and you realized that you are more productive and it's manageable to do this job. Did you have to explain something to your managers, or the company that you were working with, or it was a natural process and they were accepting of where you were?
Yeah, so I worked for an American startup. Uh, that means my bosses did not care about where I was, right? As long as I got things done. So looking back, I feel it was more natural process where it it didn't really matter where I was, what I was doing, as long as I was getting things done. And I did not have to explain it to anyone. In fact, my team that I was managing, they were appreciative of it that I could work from such a beautiful place, and I think
Hmm.
that inspired some of them. And I think I'll talk about it more about how
Sure.
I got some of my team members to be digital nomads.
Nice.
Not really digital nomads, but start traveling with the work.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
yeah,
you are that
it
kind
was
of
more
person
natural.
who can inspire other people as well. That's how I felt, when I had the first call with you, and when I see your LinkedIn posts as well. But I think, one challenge here is, and I might be generalizing a little bit, but it's very hard working with Indians and Indian companies, because as a culture, we tend to be more controlling managers. When you're working with an Indian company, they tend to like to control where you are. They tend to like to sort of um, also control a few other aspects of life, of your life, that they should not be very interested in. So I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible, but what would you recommend? Do you recommend people look for jobs with international companies to be able to have a smoother transition to a nomad life? And how do you deal with Indian managers who like you to be in a place, probably call you once a month? Because in that case, your freedom is quite limited. If you have a remote job but you have to report to office every Tuesday, for example,
Right,
which is the case for some of my friends, and that's the reason why I'm asking this.
right. So I think you have to choose between what's more important to you. Do you want to design your career to support your nomad lifestyle, or do you want to design your nomad lifestyle to suit your career, right?
Hmm.
Uh, because in certain cases, the industries like financial services, right? I was the lucky outlier to be a finance guy but still have a remote job. But it's just
Hmm.
not possible, right? But
Right.
somebody who has an ambition to build a career in finance, there are trade-offs. Maybe the trade-off on the digital nomad side would be uh, instead of taking longer kind of vacations, they might have to start with shorter vacations. But there is a way.
Hmm.
Uh, you have to prepare your manager basically to help you with that transition, right? And I agree that there are cultural intricacies where uh, international or Western world is more open to remote work. Indians are pretty much more focused on, okay, be there uh,
Mm.
in the office, right? But then there are companies in India like Springworks.
Yeah.
They are actively going out and promoting remote work, and they are taking pride in uh, working from anywhere. So I think this cultural shift will take a couple of years, but with AI around, and with you know more Gen Z and millennial folks becoming managers and becoming decision makers, I think we are on that path. Uh, and personally, I, I started my journey as an entrepreneur. We started Nomad GAO because we want to make India popular among global digital nomads. But I
Mm.
think much deeper than that is we want to make digital nomad culture popular among Indians.
Mm.
And part of the, you know, uh, part of the LinkedIn content that I talk about and all is to prepare Indians to take up this lifestyle. And a lot of them feel that it's difficult, and a lot of them don't take the first step because they feel it's out of this world, right? But it doesn't have to be. You can start small, the way I did, taking weekend explorations and having a base during the week so that I could get things done, and that will build confidence, and that will build confidence in your manager also about your ability to get things done on the go, and keep an open dialogue. Uh, I think in today's world, there is a lot of mistrust between managers and uh, employees, or leadership and uh, people who are working, right? The only way to solve for that mistrust and to bring that cultural change is to keep an open dialogue. To managers, because I manage remote teams, being an Indian, I manage remote teams of Indians. Uh, what worked for me is uh, don't be micromanagers, as simple as that, right?
Mm.
So why remote work doesn't work for a lot of managers is because they try to replicate office in remote work environment, uh, but it need not be the same. In fact, these are two different worlds, right? So people take up a remote job because they want freedom. Uh,
Right.
a lot of managers think that people working remotely or from home are lazy.
Mm.
But a lot of productivity issues that come with remote work or work from home are only because the communication part, right? So it all starts with communication. Try to have open communication with your manager about your life priorities, about your ambitions, and about how all of this doesn't need to be, against getting things done.
Mm. Right. In fact, I also feel that there are much lesser distractions when you're working from home or even from, a beautiful cafe. There's much more focus there. You can switch your environment from time to time, which I find that helps my brain work better rather than sitting on the same place every day. And there's less people asking you to go for a coffee, less people, talking about the episode that they watched last night. So there's definitely only self-imposed distractions in that case, which if you can manage your own time really well, then that can be sorted. And like you said, communicating that internally as well as like within yourself, I feel like telling yourself that this is my time to work, even if you're at home, or like in my case, you also would understand that as entrepreneurs, we have to be, the discipline has to come from inside. There's no one asking you to work.
Right.
So so that sort of character is also like a trait for becoming a digital nomad, I feel.
Yeah. So I feel that again, culturally, there is a transition period on the manager side as well as on the employee side, right? Like if we can't get things done unless we have a boss sitting over our head, you can't be a digital nomad. As simple as
Mm.
that, right? So bringing that self-discipline, planning your day, or uh, making sure that the all the distractions, all the excitement doesn't hamper your work
Mm.
is very very important. And I think building those kind of traits, uh, it's not impossible. It's perhaps 3 month kind
Yeah.
of roadmap, uh,
Right.
but it's needed to be a digital nomad.
Hmm. Yeah. Awesome. So since we've mentioned Nomad GAO twice, now is the time, I think, to just expand a little bit on the introduction so that people who are not aware can learn more about what exactly is the problem that you're solving and how are you implementing that.
Yeah. So let me start with my journey again.
Hmm.
I talked about my journey until 2015. Um, I, all these gray hairs were still black back then. Um, then I started building confidence in the Kerala, the Tamil
Hmm.
Nadu Kerala trip. Built a lot of confidence. Then I moved to a Himalayan village for a month and ended
Hmm.
up spending a few months there. And I was productive, getting things done. My team was growing, my company was growing, and the company was that I was working for. So I said, now I have got a little more confidence than the Kerala and Tamil Nadu trip. So let me go international now. And that's when I did the same thing, went to the bubble in Chiang Mai, where all
Hmm.
digital nomads go when they move to Asia. Went to Bali, spent few months there. Went to Vietnam, and you know, before the journey, I was thinking that okay, now I have the freedom and I want to make the most of it. That means I want to travel fast and uh, you know
Hmm.
cover 50 countries and all of that. Uh, but soon after I started my journey, I realized that uh, I really want to explore places in uh, a deeper sense, meet locals, build lasting connections, travel for people, travel to be part of that community. And I think all my ideas about travel started changing quite a bit, uh, in a quite big way back then. I met a lot of people during my journeys who said, "Oh, you are the first Indian digital nomad that we met." And I was like, "It's not possible. We are a country of over a billion people, and you met one digital Indian digital nomad." And a lot of them also had questions about India, a lot of preconceived notions. A lot
Hmm.
of them were founded, a lot of them were unfounded. And a lot of things that came up repeatedly was, is India safe? Is the internet good? Uh, how about the culture shock? Is there a community of digital nomads there? And I was like, okay, I need to find answers to all of this. So
Hmm.
came back, started traveling within India, started running retreats under Remote Explorers back in 2017 to bring international digital nomads to India, give them that community, give them that safety net, and give them, an opportunity to explore uh, India designed by digital nomads themselves, right? Uh, while running the retreats, I felt like, okay, this is great. This is working. People are loving it. Uh, but unless we build the core infrastructure, because a lot of places were not designed
Hmm.
to host digital nomads, like we had to create makeshift co-working spaces at the properties where we were hosting these retreats. And I felt like, okay, now the bigger problem is, are spaces beyond big cities designed for this? Are places beyond big cities designed for productive work, for community feel? And the answer was no. Even place like Goa, right? There were no spaces which were designed for digital nomad. So we said, okay, now we have to make a choice between continuing our own digital nomad journey versus setting up a place, being at one location, uh, and create community and create infrastructure there, right? And we chose the hard path. Like, it
Hmm.
was easy to continue our own digital nomad journeys. uh, make money on the go and support our lifestyle. But we said, no, let's make life little harder.
Mm.
And that's when, back in 2019, we set Nomad GAO to build a community of digital nomads who wanted to explore India and to give them the infrastructure that all digital nomads around the world need. Um, and initially, it was all about hosting foreigners, hosting foreign digital nomads who wanted to come to India. Uh, but then, because there were no Indian digital nomads, right? Like very
Mm.
few Indian digital nomads, and then the COVID hit, and
Mm.
Indians started working remotely. Indians explored this beautiful flexibility or freedom that work can happen anywhere, right? Um, and then I think then it was just we started with a 4 bedroom villa where it was all a homely feel, and
Mm.
the idea was not to build a business, right? It was just building a community. But then during COVID, we started hosting Indians who, and then we had like 3 months of waiting list. So basically, people come to us, stay with us. We have private rooms, comfortable private rooms, and then co-working areas. During the week, we do a lot of events, activities. During weekends, we go for beach days, beach volleyball or treks or excursions, local experiences and stuff. So we had like couple of months of waiting list, and then that's when a lot of our community members said, "Take our money and expand."
Mm.
Right? That's when we started doing. We did crowdfunding, opened two new locations in Goa,
Mm.
uh, and the community started growing. Of course, it was COVID time, so whenever there was, you know, uh, lockdown sort of situation, things were really challenging in term. But we said we are building this for longer term, right? Because we really believe in this lifestyle. And if we don't, because we were the digital nomads uh, before COVID, and if we don't, it's it's such a difficult thing to do, right? Because for a digital nomad to be stable at one location and to build
Right.
something for years, it's challenging. And if we don't do it, nobody else will. So we said,
Mm.
let's put our foot down. Let's face all the challenges and let's build this. Uh, Over the time, the traction started building, and people were appreciative of what we were doing. Last year, we opened our first location in Himachal to give
Mm.
people the balance between being by the beach or
By the
being in
hills.
the mountains.
Yeah.
So again, freedom is about, or balance is also about being where you want to be, right?
Mm.
That's the principle we are building NomadGao with, being people, being at the places where you want to be, being with the people you want to be with. Uh, and when I talk about community, right, again, there is another parallel story, parallel journey of me growing up. I grew up as an introvert. Uh, I felt like I was happy being that, right? And I always thought it's a uh, default case. But when I
Mm.
started traveling and started meeting these interesting people from around the world, my world expanded, and I was like, okay, the the default is all about uh, you know being with the kind of people you are with. If you are with people you cannot connect with, um,
Mm.
you'll be as an ambivert. I prefer to be an introvert. Prefer to
Mm.
sit in the corner and be by myself, and I'm happy doing that. But if I meet the right kind of people, my kind of people, my tribe,
Mm.
I am, you won't believe that I am an extrovert going for parties, organizing parties and all that stuff, right? And I discovered this side of me during my digital nomad journey.
Mm.
And I feel that a lot of people are this way, right? They want to they open up when they meet their tribe, but uh, sadly the urban life uh, doesn't give a lot of people either the time or the flexibility to meet their tribe. uh,
Right.
Whereas if you stay in places like Himachal or Goa, where life
Hmm.
is slow, you can build these connections slowly and not speed dating way of
Yeah.
life, right? uh,
True.
yeah, so NomadGao is all about uh, giving you the freedom to be in the places you want to be in, giving you the freedom to be with the people, because we curate our community. So if you walk into NomadGao, it's uh, you know pretty much a journey where you won't feel like you are meeting new people. After maybe 15 minutes, 30 minutes, you
Hmm.
will make a friend and you'll strike interesting conversations. So in that sense, it's a mix of social life of a hostel, the comfort of a
Hmm.
hotel or Airbnb, and the standardization of you know certain standardization of hotels. Yeah.
Right. No, I'm really excited to, actually looking forward to be back in India to visit one of your locations, either in Himachal or in Goa. I mean, I love both those places. I've been to both those places multiple times. My nomad journey has mostly been, me trying to find a nice Airbnb and then just exploring the local area. And I also try to travel slow. One thing that you mentioned, which I really resonate with, is when I started the nomad journey, it was 2016. I was, traveling to one place for a week or 10 days. Then it extended to one place 1 month. Then it extended to one place 3 months. So my speed also has gone from fast to slow. And at the moment, as I'm in Vietnam. It's been 2 years already. So this is the slowest that I've been. I always tell people, who say now you're living in Vietnam. I said, no, it's just a form of slow travel. You never know where I'm going to go next. It's just that it's just been 2 years, right? So I don't have that mindset of putting myself into that position that, hey, now I'm living in Vietnam, for good, because who knows where I go next. And I think that just comes from the fundamental mindset of being there as a digital nomad. So a lot of things about Nomad GAO that, I'm sure people would love to see more. And if people visit these locations, I think then they'll really have the experience that you're talking about. But from your journey, right? Like one thing that you covered everything in the story. One thing that I would also love to know about is how and where you met your wife and got married, and your family story before we get into, like, because I really want to learn from you how you managed this as a family. Like, you're going to different places. You're also in Hoi An, for a while. So how did you meet her? How did the whole family thing come around, and when was that in your journey?
Yeah. So it was 2017. I met Joy by an accident. There was
Hmm.
an Indian guy, again, a very nomadic sort of journey, right? An Indian guy was cycling around the world, and he
Okay.
happened to be in Da Nang.
Hmm.
He invited me to a place where he was hosted. I went there, and Joy, my wife, she was uh, a friend of the lady who was hosting this guy, and
Hmm.
she was also invited because Indian food was a exotic thing for her, and we just met, and I think we shared ideas about life, and she was doing a corporate job, was not really wanted to quit that and live a nomadic life, and I said, okay, let's do it, and
Hmm.
that's the short form of it. But we connected on the nomadic aspirations, and uh,
Hmm.
that's how I think uh, we got along, and we then got married within 6 months of meeting each other.
Nice.
uh, of course, she quit her job and started an online business. just to be nomadic. But a funny thing is, right after right after we got married, in a few months, we decided to uh, settle down in Goa to build Nomad GAO. So it's very ironic that we got together for nomadic journey. It's very ironic. Uh, we got together, got along with nomadic aspirations, but right after getting married, in a few months, we settled down in Goa. Uh, spent almost 4 years here because first it was setting up NomadGao, then COVID happened, we could not really travel. So last year, we decided to unschool our kids,
Hmm.
sold most of the stuff, gave up the house that we were renting, uh, and started traveling. First, it was a couple of months in Himachal.
Hmm.
Uh, then, because we could not travel for so long, I think there was this built up uh, travel aspirations. So we said, let's spend 6 months in Vietnam. Uh, and we had this grand ambitions of covering north to south on bikes,
Hmm.
uh, not knowing that the last time I was nomading was like 5 years ago. Uh, and uh, I was like, okay, it's easy. It's the
Hmm.
same thing that I was doing 5 years ago, so nothing different. But then when we, you know, we came to Vietnam in October, bought bikes, uh, and we said, okay, we are now ready to start. But within a few days, we realized that it's not possible with the family of five. Again,
Hmm.
this is the second realization
Two bikes and
about
three
slow
children, right?
traveling.
2 bikes and 3 kids.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then we gave up on that grand plan. We said slow is the best way. So time and again, I realize in some ways that slow traveling is the
Hmm.
most suited form of traveling for me. Although I am curious to know more about the world, more about new
Hmm.
places, I think I am more keen on forming these connections with the place, with the people that I meet there, than you know, than just checking the boxes and
Right.
going to new places all the time. Um, and that also supports nicely the nomadic journey, right? Because
Hmm.
the last time I did my nomadic journey, I had a job. This time I'm doing it, I have a physical business.
Hmm.
Uh, so the form of nomadic life had changed. Earlier, I knew exactly what are the tasks in my hand because someone else told me these are the things to be done. Now I need to decide on what
Right.
I have to do, what are my priorities. So it's nice to know the different side of nomadism, the different side of me as a
Hmm.
digital nomad.
Right. Wow. So there was
Yeah. So the
one
question
big
was about
yeah.
how I met Joy and how the
Right.
family life uh, is forming during these nomadic journeys. So our kids love the idea that they don't have to go to school. Uh, they are learning things that they want to learn.
Yeah.
Uh, so yesterday, our kids were designing games, card
Hmm.
games, because
Hmm.
they got interested in card games during one of the game nights at NomadGao. Uh,
Hmm.
so they said, "Okay, let us try to design our own games." Uh, as parents, there is a lot of learning on our part we need to do, right? We need to learn to let go. So when I say it's easy for me to not micromanage my teens, but not micromanaging kids is
Hmm.
another way we need to learn on the way, because we are concerned about them, and parents think that they know better than kids just because they're older and they have gray hair, right? But
Yeah.
I think letting go of that part,
Hmm.
trusting kids, is something you need to learn while unschooling, world schooling,
Hmm.
learning on the go. And I personally feel that travel is the best teacher, right? Because it has taught me so much that I did not learn when I was in school or I
Mm.
was at one place. It has taught me so much about geography that I only learned through theoretical books during school days. So much about history by going to museums and stuff. Um, I feel that as unschooling parent, uh, we just need to let kids explore that with open eyes, open mind. And we are fortunate that we have this privilege because both of us work digitally.
Mhm.
I don't work digitally, I have a physical business. But again, I think even in the case of physical business, it's about uh, hiring the right team,
Mm.
trusting them, letting go, learning to let go. Uh, so these are the parallels between managing remote team and managing children
Right.
while on the go, right?
Yeah, I think, yeah, there's just a lot of practice that we have of not letting go, right? That we have to also unlearn that whole process. And
Right.
this community in India with people started off discussing homeschooling in communities very recently, and unschooling and being a global citizen. Like, all of these terms are very new, and when I speak to my friends, they just tell me, don't you have fear that your children will not be able to compete in the social standard, sort of, when they grow up if you homeschool them? Because that's something that I've been talking to my friends about, as I want to build a digital family, digital nomad family. So what do you say to such, what do you think? Do you have that kind of fear that when my children grow up, are they competing at the same level with these people who have gone through the formal education system? What's happening there in your mind when you think about these things?
So two keywords that I heard from you uh, while you asked this question was fear
Hmm.
and competition, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So there is this social conditioning that you know that makes us think about, okay, if this doesn't happen, I won't be able to have a career, or if I don't do this, I won't get that. So a lot of decisions that we do are based out of fear. uh, if I don't score good in my 10th exam, I won't be able to get science. If I don't score well in my 12th exam, I won't be able to get to a good engineering college or a medical college. uh, so our society has taught us to approach everything in life with the lens of fear, and I think at one point in time it was natural and it
Hmm.
made sense, right? Because when the resources were, constrained, it made sense to approach everything with the lens of fear. But now I feel that the whole world is open to us. Uh, Kids can do whatever they want to do, master it, and have access to global opportunities thanks to internet. So we need not have to approach everything with the lens of fear and competition,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, if you do something very commoditized, like software engineering, right?
Right.
uh, Generic software engineering, uh, then you are bound to think of competition, and competition gives rise to fear, I think, in my opinion, right?
Hmm.
But if you carve your own path, uh, if you master what you're doing, and you're smart enough to know the real world applications of it, uh, I think that's when you don't need to worry about competition and fear.
Right.
And I personally feel that a lot of these things are, my our kids are getting exposed to uh, ways of thinking that you cannot build when you are sitting in a classroom,
Absolutely.
right? They are open to uh, new experiences all the time. So that is building uh, the flexibility, because the second day doesn't look like the first day,
Hmm.
right? Or second, another option is they're meeting people from different cultures, different backgrounds. So they are able to actually see people as people, and not as, you know, not as homogeneous set.
Right.
Uh, uh,
Love that. Yeah,
yeah.
because
So
I would definitely, be excited if Nomad GAO welcomes children. I'd love to come with my family, spend a while there.
yeah, so that's another journey, right? When we started Nomad GAO, it was like I was fresh out of my nomadic journey.
Hmm.
So I felt we designed it more like for singles and couples without kids to come hang out
Right.
uh, between age of 25 and 35. Uh, but now that we are in our unschooling, world schooling journey,
Hmm.
uh, we really want to create communities for families to come together, because I feel that the modern life, right, last uh, maybe 10, 20, 30 years, uh, we are getting isolated. I grew up in a joint family where there was always someone to take care of kids,
Hmm.
uh, right? The parents themselves did not have the sole burden of raising their kids. It was on the community as a whole, right? But we have lost that over time. Now parents have to uh, be everything and be everywhere for kids, right? What if there is a community where, and parents are not equipped for that, right? The parents together may not have the interest and skills to teach maths to kids. But what if there is a community of people where different set of parents bring in different skill sets,
Hmm.
and then it's a utopia, right? Because
Right.
then there is always someone to take care of kids. There is always someone to fill in the gaps in kids' education, because they come with the interest and skills in that subject area.
Hmm.
So it's all about that. So eventually, hopefully, we'll build communities like that for families.
Yeah, I think that's a very, natural evolution that you go through, right? Like you started off, and then as I see that in your journey, what you've done is you've found, problems during your own journey, and then you've taken that responsibility up, taken that risk up to solve that problem. And as you go through life, I'm sure that you'll find the next thing to solve for, and then you'll implement it. As they say, it takes a village to raise a kid, and that village could very well be Nomad GAO, right? As to raise nomad kids, we need nomad villages. Very interestingly, two things before we wrap up. One thing I wanted to say is of course, we have a lot in common. There's no doubt about that. But there's another thing that I just learned today is actually I met my wife because she was the friend of my Airbnb host. So that's
Wow.
again something which is very similar between us. And the second is I had been also thinking about, this community concept of raising children. Like right now, as we are speaking on this podcast, my daughter is in my in-laws house. She has her uncles and aunts and so many people with her that I really am not worried about where she is, what she's doing. And tomorrow she might be in my sister-in-law's house. So there's like our entire family lives around nearby. And what if this could expand to having experts in their fields, contributing to the children's, exposing them to different things, and then the kids deciding what they are attracted to and then pursuing that, right? Like that's the path that I was also thinking about. So it's very refreshing and sort of, I get hope hearing this from you, because if someone else can build it, I would just like to, skip the building part and just be a part of it. I've always tried to keep it lean. I've tried to always focus on digital businesses because it's just something that I'm good at and also something that I've found to be. things, the opportunities that I came across in my life were all like digital businesses. And I can be very sure that if someone builds something like that, I would love to be a part of that. And especially if it's coming from you, I'd be really happy to be a part of that.
Thanks, man. In fact, I look at NomadGao or future evolutions of NomadGao as a community project.
Hmm.
I'm doing this because I know that somebody has to do it,
Hmm.
and I enjoy doing this. So why not me? Uh,
Absolutely.
but then, the community has contributed immensely in the uh, you know, whole NomadGao project, I would
Hmm.
say. Uh, Shehzada, my co-founder, he was a customer, and then he
Okay.
felt like he really want to be part of this. So we ran
Hmm.
a podcast together, and now he's managing leading the community. Then, uh, you know, a lot of people have crowdfunded our growth, and in fact, we are running one round right now
Hmm.
to crowdfund for our future growth because I personally feel that when you are building a community, you want people to contribute, not just funds. uh, if they of course, if they contribute funds, they also contribute their skills, ideas,
Hmm.
so much more. So it's very organic, and
Hmm.
uh, would love to have you you know help us spread this movement, spread the awareness about digital nomadism, world schooling, unschooling, building communities of families through your expertise in building digital audience, digital businesses, a lot of things to do. And
Absolutely, absolutely. Always here to help. So one thing that, people can definitely find the link to Nomad GAO, but also the campaign you mentioned, do share the link as well, and I'll put it in the podcast for the crowdfunding campaign. I'm also building a community called Growth Grad, which is for people who have these, doubting the default mindsets, who want to build businesses, side hustles, travel the world. They don't subscribe to everything that society tells them. So those are the people who have the fundamentally the right mindset to do all of these kinds of things and become much more than what society wants them to be. That's how I like to put it. So I'll definitely spread the word in the community as well. And lastly, Mayur, if people want to get in touch, what's the best place to get in touch with you regarding any of the campaigns or anything they want to be part of NomadGao in any way?
yeah, so NomadGov, I can put a link in the chat. If you want to know more about NomadGov, you can just get on the website. We are in the process of redesigning it. If
Hmm.
you want to book, you can book directly from the website.
Nice.
Then, if you want to get in touch with me personally, LinkedIn is the best way. I love LinkedIn.
Right.
Uh, so I'm also putting the link to LinkedIn in the chat. Um, then, for the family journey, we
Hmm.
have this small YouTube channel called
Nice.
Nomad Tuk Tuk. Uh, I think we can talk about why Nomad Tuk Tuk in uh, different podcast
We need a
episode.
full podcast on Nomad Tuk Tuk. Yeah. I've seen the channel. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So it's just right now we are just recording our memories as a
Hmm.
family, so that uh, you know if someone asks us 10, 20, 30 years down the line, did you really do it? We have a proof. Just kidding.
Nice. Good way to end the podcast. Thank you so much, Mayur, for your time. And this was really, a fun podcast for me just because we both have so many things in common and I resonate with you at so many levels. And also very refreshing for someone to hear that, when you hear you're not the only crazy one, it always feels better. Someone else
Yeah.
is there on the same path. So cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mayur. And we'll put all of those links so that people can find you, find the campaigns, and yeah, keep in touch.
Yeah, man, it was great being here. I mean, as you said, I could see a lot of parallels and always, excited to talk about digital nomadism, unschooling, world schooling, and you are the best person to talk to because you are living that journey, you are planning that journey. So great, great man.
Yeah. Thanks, Mayur. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Bye bye.
Bye bye.